that contract's due right away. There's no pushing that off like you can with Nolan or Cooper or not even Cooper, Quinion or, any of those other Jalen Carter. You could even push another year if you really wanted to. Welcome in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mac, John McMullen, here with you on a Football Friday. There's good news. It's Football Friday. The bad news is the Eagles still will have another day before we get to the game. It'll be a Monday night game versus the Green Bay Packers. Johnny Mac, how you doing on a Football Friday, brother?
Doing well. Got that extra day, yeah. So it's been a while since we've seen Eagles football, which is rare. So I guess we'll go, what is it, October 26th to November 10th, which is rare in the middle of a season. But, some teams will play 2 games before the Eagles play 1 game, most of the teams. So interesting bye week, and interesting how it unfolded at the trade deadline as well. We'll see how the Eagles handle it. We got to see the 3 new players: Jaelan Phillips, Michael Carter, Jair Alexander. I think obviously the big one is Jaelan Phillips, and Nick Sirianni was talking yesterday, and he mentioned how big he was, and he's right. I didn't realize how big he was. This is a monster, and athletic. I was talking to Jordan Mailata yesterday, called him a blur when he practiced against him. Boy, if this guy stays healthy, I think, he's going to be something for the Eagles.
I'm with you, John. I mean, and by the way, he had a lot of great commentary yesterday. I don't know how hyperbolic he was being by saying it's the greatest thing that ever happened to him by being traded to the Eagles. But
I think he's a smart guy too. I think he's a smart guy.
Yeah, playing to the media a little bit, get him on your side.
You see his comments coming out of Miami. He was very complimentary to them. He's just a smart guy. He understands. I'm sure he's thrilled to be, from the standpoint of going from, I guess they're not worst technically, Miami, because the New York Jets exist in the AFC East, but one of the worst teams to one of the best teams. Just from that standpoint, that's a nice change from just a standpoint of getting up and going through the grind every morning. Being on a 6-2 team instead of a 2-7 team.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, Jalen Hurts, I think, spoke about that yesterday too. He's like, you wake up in one situation, and then the next day you wake up in a whole new situation. But I thought Jalen was pretty good at the podium yesterday. We'll get into all that, John. Plenty of stuff to talk about here today. We'll talk a little bit about AJ. I know you don't want to do it, John, but we will do it. Everybody's talking about him. Jaelan Phillips, as you mentioned, his first day at practice yesterday is a good news. John, just real quick, we'll start here. Vulnerable Vitality put super chat. Vitality, thank you, brother. I appreciate it, man. And obviously, with the gut wrenching news of in the NFL world yesterday, he says, you are always enough. Things can only get better if you're here. It's never bad enough to take your life. I promise. Horrible things happen to us all, but none are worth you not being here. Tell somebody you love them. Vitality, thank you for the super chat, brother. I appreciate it, man. And very sad day in the NFL world. John, yesterday it broke right at the end of our show. We didn't have much details, but we just knew Marshawn Nealand had passed at that point. Just your chance, just an opportunity for you, John, to speak about it in whatever way you'd like here on a Football Friday edition with the very sad news yesterday in the NFL world.
Yeah, it is sad. And that was, I think, as larger society as a whole, my first thought was 24-year-old guy. That was my hope. It was not what it turned out to be, and it was.
Right.
For whatever reason, that kind of reaction has seemed to spike with younger people now. I don't know why, especially with people on the outside looking in that seem to have it all. He's coming off, he's an NFL player, makes a lot of money. He's got a great future. He's coming off a game where he had a touchdown, a defensive touchdown. From the outside looking in, you'd think he has it all, basically. And obviously, he didn't believe that, and he didn't think that, and he got into some issues. And it turned out in the most tragic way possible. But, and that's what I wanted. There was just a glut of people around AJ Brown yesterday to talk to him about things that don't matter. That's what I wanted to talk to him about, was what happened there, because he's been a very vocal advocate of mental health over the years. And I wanted to get some comments, wasn't able to even get near him. But anyway, Lane Johnson as well. Lane wasn't in the locker room, but they've gone through their own mental health struggles. And you think about that, those are Hall of Fame level players, and everybody's got something going on. So AJ wore that shirt to the game, one of the recent games, check on your teammates, whatever that I'm paraphrasing, but check on your friends, because everybody's got, stuff going on in their personal life, and they try to mask it because that's what we've been taught to do, most of us. But it's always sad when you see somebody in the prime of their life who seems to have so much, and for whatever reason they go down that dark route. It's sad.
Yeah. Very sad, Johnny Mac. Well said by you. Appreciate those words. It would have been great to hear, as you mentioned, it would have been great to hear those comments from AJ Brown. As for those who don't know, AJ has spoken very openly in the past, and even recently with the new merch line he dropped, check on your teammates and stuff. And he spoke about that as well. So great words by you, John. We appreciate you sharing them, and rest in peace to Marshawn Nealon. I'll be praying for him and his family and the entire NFL community, the Dallas Cowboy community. Rest in peace, Marshawn Nealon. Good stuff. Johnny Mac, let's move in. Yesterday, you mentioned you talked to Jaelan Phillips. You talked to all the new guys. You talked to Jair Alexander, who joked about, when AJ Brown beat the crap out of him in Brazil a year ago, which was pretty funny. You talked to Michael Carter, who I happen to like Michael Carter a little bit. What were some of your takeaways, John? You spoke with Jaelan yesterday. A lot of comments yesterday, and it's been a little bit since you guys have been in there. So, get back into the mix a little bit with it, John, is always good to do.
Yeah, I mean, with Jaelan, obviously, I've said, that's the guy, that's the centerpiece of the trades and the trade deadline moves by Howie Roseman. That's a guy who is going to be a big part of this team. It's just a matter of how big. And everything is positive from the standpoint. Again, Nick's a tall guy, Nick Sirianni. He's like, he's shocked at how big he was and just how long and physical and athletic. And, he was the, whatever he was, 18th, 19th pick for a reason. And, I talked to Jordan Mailata about the practice they had against Miami. And, he called him a blur. He was so quick and, joking a little bit about his roast of Jason Kelsey with the eyebrows comment.
Yeah, it's funny.
Which was a classic that even Kelsey loved. So I mean, he's and he gets it, like you said, greatest day of his life, whatever he's called it. And he just gets it. So he understands Big's defense. He's been in it. He can move inside if you need him. He can do a lot of different things, and he's in the prime of his career. The only concern is the injuries, obviously. But when he's been on the field, he's produced in Miami at a high level. I think people are going to be really excited about Jaelan Phillips. The other guys, I think Jair Alexander is not even going to be in the mix early. I think the goal there is to get him as healthy as possible off his knee issues, and maybe try to find something in the final month of the season as you go into the playoffs. That's my feel for that. With Carter, I think he's got a more defined role. He's going to be the backup slot and the backup safety to start, probably the dime back. And if, they want it, it gives Big Fangio more options, more versatility, more flexibility. If they want to use Cooper outside against a particular opponent because they like the matchup, they can use him outside. If they want to keep him inside, they can, and Makuba's having a bad day, you can maybe mix him in at safety So I think he gives him more flexibility, but I think he's got a defined role coming in. I think Phillips has got a headlining role coming in.
Yeah.
And I think Alexander's about trying to catch lightning maybe later in the season.
Yeah, I think in terms of Jaelan and just that comment that he made with it being the great, I get it was somewhat hyperbolic, and you're probably right, John. I mean, he's a smart guy. He knows how to play into it a little bit, and but I do think from a real football perspective, John, he's got an opportunity to really become a household name. I mean, that's a part of playing in Philly now because they're such a good team and they're so much in the spotlight, and they play in deep into the playoffs, or at least they have. 2 of the last 3 years. They're going to have big games, and if he's the headliner here, he's going to have a chance to really, really put himself out there as a big edge rusher in the league. And whether it's here or it's not in the future, I hope it's here. Whether it's here or it's not in the future, I think he's got an opportunity here as a player, and I think he realizes that, which is a good thing because you want a player to go out and reach their potential, or at least work their ass off to reach their potential. And I think Jaelan Phillips has that opportunity here in Philly.
Yeah, definitely from the profile standpoint. In a lot of ways, I think he already has. Like I said, he's played.
Yeah, but I
he's
mean, like
played
Miami,
well.
right? Like there's only so many people are going to pay attention when you're on the 2-7 Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, they stink right now. So,
Yeah.
yeah, from that standpoint, certainly. But he's and I think if you look at the upside, and you talk about Nolan Smith, and Nolan's a really good player, and nobody's going to deny that. But he's also got some issues from a size perspective. This guy doesn't have those issues.
Yeah, he looks the part a lot more than
Yeah.
Nolan, doesn't he?
So you can see if it clicks the high ceiling, the higher end ceiling. But it's got to click. He's had some significant injuries. He played, I think, a total of 12 games in 2023 and 2024. Now he has been healthy this season. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, there's no question that this guy's a good player. The question is, can he stay healthy, and how much is the Achilles and the ACL? How much did that take out of him? Basically, is what you have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and he's been playing well this year, so it hasn't been an issue this year. I think he'll be good. We'll see how he holds up, and I think he's got as I mentioned, a rare opportunity here to cash in, and hopefully it's in Philly. John, I do think there's a complicated future conversation there where, if Jaelan Phillips does come in and ball out, that contract's due right away. There's no pushing that off like you can with Nolan or Cooper, or not even Cooper, Quinion, or any of those other, Jalen Carter. You could even push another year if you really wanted to. He's going to be due right away. I think that's going to create for some interesting decision making by Howie Roseman in the offseason.
Yeah, and that is, I do, because everybody for some reason wants to immediately jump to compensatory picks, and a lot of people, well, they'll get a third round compensatory pick. Yeah, I don't think he's got enough time to prove to be at that kind of level from a contract standpoint. So I do think, if you want to look at the silver lining of those injuries, I do think it limits his earning power a little bit, at least this year, which will help.
But I mean, as it's just speaking from an Eagles perspective, like, I don't want to play the comp pick game. I understand it's a good benefit if he does walk out the door or if he exceeds the threshold.
Well, what I'm saying, he's not getting a third round compensatory pick.
Yeah, right. But I mean, like, if he's a great edge rusher, we need a great edge rusher. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need
What I'm trying to say is he's not going to get paid like, this week, Micah Parsons or Myles Garrett or TJ Watt.
You think he could get paid like Josh Sweat did? Because that's kind of what I say.
Yeah, he'll be in that realm. And that, if he plays well, the Eagles will have no problem anteing up for that. But, that's about evaluation, how he plays the second half of the season, how he plays in the playoffs. But if he turns into a star and they win another Super Bowl, yeah, they'll pay him Josh Sweat money. No doubt about it. And, I do think people get overextended when they talk about, like, if you want to use Josh Sweat, I think he's average annual value, which is bullshit anyway. But even if you want to use that, I'm looking
What
it
was he,
up.
like 18 mil, I think?
I think it was 19, but he's
19?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. There's only 16 edge rushers who make more than Josh Sweat in the NFL. So it's not a big club. So I do think people are overextending their thought of what he'll earn. So, that helps if he plays well and the Eagles want him back. And the bottom line is, if he plays well and the Eagles want him back, they'll get him back. That's the bottom line. I
Right.
don't even worry about that. I wouldn't worry about that if I were an Eagles fan. If they want him back, they'll get him back, and they'll do what they need to do.
Yeah, I think the hope as an Eagles fan would be that he plays well enough that it is the no-brainer you're talking about.
Yeah. And if he doesn't, and if they don't want him back, you're probably talking more of a fourth, fifth round compensatory pick, even if you're playing the compensatory pick game.
Yeah. So still, in my opinion, not that bad. I mean, you got to take shots. If you guys remember, a couple years ago, we traded a 4th round pick for Robert Quinn, who came and went and didn't do a whole lot of anything. So a 3rd round pick for a guy that's young and obviously has a lot left in the tank, I think is a worthy start.
My overriding advice there is, don't worry about compensatory.
Yeah, picks. I'm with you, John. I'm with you. All right, John, let's talk about a more pressing part of the day yesterday is the injury report. The most notable thing that I saw, and I'll ask you what you saw, but is obviously Cam Jurgens and then the elevation of Willie Lampkin. Is Cam Jurgens,
well,
what
not
is
elevation.
going on?
They started his practice window, so he's got a 21-day practice
Okay,
window.
that's what it was. Gotcha.
He's not. He's on. He's not on. He's on injured reserve, but they don't. He's not a practice squad player. So if they want to put him on the roster over that 21 days, they can. Obviously, you have to make some other moves. It is notable that Cam, after the bye week, is still a DNP, not practicing. And they did start the practice window, because I didn't think they were going to start the practice window on Willie Lampkin. So, yeah, it's something to keep an eye on, no question. Now, they haven't put Cam on injured reserve, which they could. If he's going to miss 4 games, they should, to be honest. Wasn't in the locker room yesterday. No surprise there. Wasn't on the practice field. That's never a good sign, because certainly not for this week. I would say he's not going to play Monday. That's pretty clear. But, usually, like, you go back to before the Giants game, and somebody like AJ was out there watching practice, doing a little rehab before practice on the side field. Not seeing that with Cam Jurgens yet. So a little bit of concern, and it's amplified when a guy you didn't expect that they would start his practice window. Willie Lampkin was a guy I just thought they were stashing for the year on injury reserve.
Right.
So, yeah, it's something to keep an eye on. And then the other guys, concussions, Adoree Jackson, Moro, Jomo were limited. So they're working their way through the concussion protocol.
Any indication on where that came from with Jomo? I don't recall him getting a concussion or anything.
No. And those, sometimes guys, will come in after the game and report concussions, and it's such a nebulous thing. I talk about it. It's so nebulous. So, we'll learn when we get to talk to him, which, obviously when you're in the concussion protocol, you're not even allowed to speak. Again, nebulous. So we'll see as they get through it, as to use Nick Sirianni's lexicon. Then, the bigger news, so full practice, Saquon with his groin, he tweaked his groin. No problems there. He's full. AJ's full, already said he's playing Monday. Jacorian Bennett is full, and he's on his. The Eagles have to make a decision pretty quickly with him because he's still on injured reserve, 21-day practice window. And Nolan Smith was a full participant as he tries to come off injured reserve, and they started his 21-day practice window. So they're going to have to make some roster decisions if they want Nolan, Jacorian, and Willie Lampkin on the roster.
Yeah, and what's the process for that? When's the cutoff for that? If they want like Nolan to play, when do they have to? When do they?
They will do that Saturday at 4:00 typically. They take it up to the last minute, that's the last minute, Saturday 4:00.
Right, good stuff there, John. Interesting on the injury note. Some people are pointing out to me they think the Moro Ujoma concussion came when Keely Ringo bashed into him. If you remember that.
Oh yeah. Oh, and by the way, also injury. AJ did confirm he hurt his hamstring on the final play.
He did. He did
winning
confirm
play.
That. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what was speculated when he pulled up there.
Yeah.
But he did say he's definitely playing on Monday night. So AJ Brown's good to go. Good news there. John, looking over at the Packers, I'm not sure if you had a chance. I know you were a very busy guy yesterday, obviously down at the NovaCare complex, but the Packers have an injury report here as well, with a lot of guys on their injury report. Only a few didn't play or didn't practice yesterday. Cornerback Nate Hobbs, edge Lucas Van Ness, wide receiver Savion Williams are the 3 DNPs. And then they had a bunch of limiteds like, Christian Watson, Matthew Gold. Christian Watson has just returned this year from the ACL. I think he's on a pitch count. Dontavian Wicks, Matthew Golden, so 3 receivers on there. Micah Parsons was limited. Edger and Cooper, probably a lot of just management here. This is a team that played on Sunday. But anything stick out on those names, especially with the DNPs for the Packers?
Well, what sticks out is the Eagles are probably 10-0, basically having the better injury reports as the season continues. 9-0, they'll be 9-0, 10 weeks. So, every week, that's why I can't complain about injuries. Well, I never complain about injuries because it's part of the game, but I should say fans, you can't complain about injuries because everybody else is more banged up than the Eagles, and it's been quite a run. And here's another team that's far more banged up than the Eagles, who makes sense because the Eagles are coming off their bye week. But, a lot of it's management. Obviously, when you see limited guys, like Mike is going to play. Zach Tom's going to play. He's a very good tackle. Quay Walker's. I don't know where they are with Christian Watson, but I don't think that's relevant. He's a guy. He's a weird guy to me.
Yeah, he is.
He makes a lot of big plays. He's injured all the time, but he's not that good. I mean, people act like
he was back though. I think he did have a couple catches in last week's game.
People act like if they had him, they had Christian Watson. I'm like, what is Christian Watson?
Yeah, he never really lived on. He was a first-round pick, wasn't he?
Second, I believe. So I mean. It is what it is. If he's out there, he's out there. They have a bunch of. He's a good receiver. I'm not saying that, but for some reason, it's that there was. I was comparing
143 yards in 2 games. He's only played in 2 games this year.
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, look. What I'm trying to say is he's a big play receiver. He always gets down the field. He makes, but he's not consistent.
Yes,
he's never been consistent. And he shouldn't be talked about as some wide receiver number 1 if he could only stay healthy. That's what I'm trying to say. Because there's a lot of that weird, and I don't know. It happens with certain players, and it's weird. I always go back to and I'm trying to figure out, I forget his name. The Sixers had a first round pick back in the Larry Brown days. And he got injured. Speedy Claxton. So I'm going way back to 2000. And he got injured right away, unfortunately, before the season started. Typical Sixers luck versus Eagles luck. And all year, I swear, they didn't have him. And he was like the 20th pick in the draft from Hofstra. And Speedy was a small kid. He's like under 6 foot. And Larry Brown would bring him up just out of the blue, and he said, "Well, if Speedy was there," and I'm like, "What are we doing here? What do you mean?" And that's how I feel like with Christian Watson. It's like, well, if Speedy was here, yeah, if Christian Watson was here, he's decent receiver. That's it. That's all I'm trying to say. He's not
because he had a big
great
combine. Is that what it is? This is
no, what it is. He's a big guy who's got tremendous speed, and he sort of looks like a Randy Moss type who could be that type of receiver.
Yeah, from a physical build.
Yeah, from a measurable standpoint, and like there's no evidence of that. Zero, other than you don't see too many 6'4" receivers who run 4.35 or whatever he ran coming out, which is okay. He's first of all, as I said, he's never healthy. He's topped out. I'm looking him up now. He's topped out at 41 receptions as a rookie. His best season from a yardage standpoint, 620. And he had 7 touchdowns as a rookie. But here's what people are enamored with, especially in this day and age where everything is bubble screen this, bubble screen that. He averaged 21.4 yards per catch.
Yeah.
Last
year.
He
had a 52-yard catch last week.
So he is a legitimate downfield threat. But again, I don't know where the
I'm with you.
If only Christian Watson was there.
Yeah, right. It's not like they're getting back AJ Brown. I mean, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. So anyway, tangent. Speedy Claxton tangent done.
I like it. A little Speedy Claxton here on a football Friday.
We only had Speedy. Yeah.
Speaking of the Sixers, did they play tonight? I know they were off last night. They were on a doubleheader.
I don't believe they play tonight, but I'm not sure. Yeah, tough loss in Chicago, then a logical loss in Cleveland. But
I think
they're better. They're better. They're a better team on Joel's floor. I'm sorry.
Their loss in Cleveland would maybe insinuate otherwise. But
Cleveland's a good team.
Yeah. Donovan Mitchell was lights out in that game too, man. Like
they're not. The Sixers' issues are defensively, which they're not a good defensive team. But in theory, Joel should help, but he's not helping them defensively. So, because he can't move. So